Welcome, it's Pitfire Day again. I always love Pitfire, I do very much. It's fun to play with fire, that's just how it is. And it's beautiful to be outside and playing with this, and of course the outcome is usually awesome. Today we're gonna do lots of experiments. I always do lots of experiments with Pitfire, and the fact is that even if you don't, it always comes out a little bit different from time to time. But today I'm gonna do multiple experiments on top of each other, which is probably stupid, but I'm hoping for the best anyway. So I have a bunch of pots that I applied multicolored Terra Sigillata to, something that I've only done very little in the past. And on top of that, I'm gonna use some combustibles that I also haven't used before. I have a couple of videos about how I created and colored and applied this Terra Sigillata. There's a link somewhere. I also have a video about the collection of all these combustibles from around Denmark. There's another link to that. And on top of that, I'm also going to do some adjustments to my Pitfire barrel. All that and much more I will show you in just a few minutes. Welcome. As always, before I do anything else, I have to clean out the barrel from the last firing. So there's some tin foil and some ashes and stuff. I don't have to clean it out completely, but I need to have sort of a clean surface to start on. And this is the dirty work. I kind of hate that, but I have to do it. In the past, I have, in the last couple of fires, I've been putting in this grit at the bottom that you see here. And I was kind of hoping to have a little bit of layer underneath it with some airspace so that I would get a better suction. I think it worked okay, but today I actually got a completely different piece of equipment to do that. So I'll show you that in a second. Instead of this old chicken fence or something that I used, as you can see, it's almost worn out. There's some considerable heat down there, and it doesn't last a long time with that. I used it a few times. It doesn't cost much, so it is a cheap solution, but also it kind of bends, so it's not so stable. So I went out and invested in this bonfire grill thing in cast iron. It's quite heavy, and it even comes with these two handles, which makes it very convenient now that I have put it down here, and it fits perfectly. What I will do now is I will take a couple of fire bricks and put them down here and place it on top of that. The fire bricks I have is made for a gas kiln, so they can go up to 1400 degrees centigrade. So that should be plenty. So I'll put that down there and put it here, and I think, of course, that's going to be much more stable, and so hopefully we're going to get some more airflow from below. Also, what I want to do is I want to drill some additional holes. I don't know if you can see it here, but the holes is about 30-40 centimeters high, which is perfect for how I used to fire this. But now with this only being 7-8 centimeters above, I want to have some airflow underneath it. There are some holes in the bottom, but there's not so much airflow in that way. So I will drill a couple more holes. That should get more airflow. More airflow will get higher temperature, and I really want that. These are high fire kiln bricks. They are very heavy. If you saw the video that I made about the beginning of my project of building a gas kiln, you know how heavy they are. I just moved 600-700 of them into my garden. So I'm just going to pick two of them and put them down here to place this grill on top of it. I'm going to try not to put them exactly on top of the holes that I had in the bottom and the holes that I expect to drill in the side. So I'll put them like this. So I will put some holes here and some holes here, and I think that will work well. Let me see. Yeah, I think that should work well. So there we go. And we take this one. That looks perfect. Goodbye, chicken fence. You served me well, but you have to die. Now I'm ready to drill the extra holes, and then we can start on preparing the pots for the Pitfire. To drill holes in your barrel, of course you need a drill, but you also need some drill bits that are made for metal. I started out using some all-purpose types of drill bits, and it turned out to be such a lot of work. Although this is, I mean, it's rather thin. It's not like cast iron or anything. It's theoretically easy to get through. So instead, I went out and bought these drill bits that are specifically for hardened metal, so they can go through anything. And it's actually very easy with these ones. Now I have the stones in there, the fire bricks, and they're about 7 centimeters high. And then we have the cast iron rest here. So I want to have some holes that are very low. So I think something like this should be good. So that was the first two. I'm just gonna do maybe one more here and a few more on the other side. What makes today's Pitfire a little bit special and a new kind of experience to me is two things. First of all, as I mentioned, I've been using several colors of Terra Sigillata that are mixed up and colored myself. And there's a video about that somewhere. There's a link if you want to see how I did that. I have no idea how these colors are going to turn out in the Pitfire. And of course, it's not just going to be those colors, because I'm also going to use some combustibles, but not just any combustibles. I collected some interesting stuff around the beaches of Denmark, and there's also a video about that, where I collect them from a small island in Ferric. I also went to the west of Denmark, to the west coast, where there's a long beach and lots of nice seaweeds and other vegetables that I could collect. So let's take a look at what I got. So basically this fire is going to be pure organic. Oh, maybe as organic as it gets with me, but I will show you this in the end. That's very interesting. These are some plants that I collected. You probably know these kinds of plants that grow very close to the sea. And because they grow so close to the sea, and actually the sea actually rolls over them sometimes, my guess is that there must be a lot of salt in that. And of course there's always the carbon in it, which always creates some nice colors. And then there's some chemicals, I don't know which, that will release when we fire it. This is another kind of plant. I have no idea what these plants are called, but they look good and they all grow by the sea. There's a third kind down here, a little bit different, but still in the same reach. I think that's going to be nice. These are probably not going to be very different from other plants that are used, plant material that are used. These are like straws. They're nice because you can wrap them around the pot like this, and probably going to create some nice patterns. The other box is seaweed, and this seaweed is, I think, again, I don't know what it's called, but I think it's one of the most common kinds that we have here in Denmark. I don't know if you can see it here. These are like long threads of weed. The great thing about this is that it contains lots of salt, because I mean it grows in the seawater, and there's also some sand in here, which probably won't hurt at all. There's a few stones. I'm probably going to take that out because they could explode. But this is good. Smells wonderful. And here we have a little bit of a different kind. This is more powdered seaweed, and it's smaller pieces. It could be part of the same, but it's not exactly. And then we have this kind, which is a completely different kind. There's also a lot of that in Denmark. And again, I don't know the name of these different ones, but these have all these little bubbles, these little air bubbles in there. Sounds funny when you crack them when they're fresh, but not now, they're dry. I usually like to dry it because it stays a long time when you dry it. When it's wet, it kind of rots. So I put them in these boxes that have some circulation of air and put them in my garage. So that's the third kind. The fourth kind, And the last one, this is the back. This is an interesting kind because that is totally different. This is, it feels almost like a wick, a hair or something. It is very, very different. It does smell like seaweed. And this, I think, will create some interesting patterns because you can stretch it out and it becomes almost like hair. I think that's interesting. And also, this is from the west coast. So this is from another end of Denmark. And in that end of Denmark, we also have sharks. They're not very big ones. We have very little sharks. But I remember when I was a kid, there was lots of this and we collected it. Shark eggs. The egg shells or so, they float into the beach and they dry up and it becomes this interesting material. I don't know what you would call it scientifically, but I mean it's eggshells just from a shark. There's some carbon in it. I don't know what else. I'll try and use that on one of my pots and see how that turns out. If it's nice, I will go back and collect some more. I only have very little of that. So that's it. Before I start to wrap up my pots, I want to create a bed, a layer at the bottom that I can put them on. I don't want to put them directly on this cast iron wrist that I have here. So for that today, I'm going to use hay. Sometimes I've been using fine pieces of wood. I also use some pine woods and leaves, but it tends to be creating too much dark colors, and I want this to stay a little more light. So I want to use hay. Also hay ignites very easy, so it's easier to get some flames down there. It actually looks very cozy down there. It's almost like a bed. I also want to add some little pieces of wood just to have a little more that can burn. So it's a nice way to clean up as well as getting your pit fired. I think that's good enough for now, then I will start stacking up the pots. Oh yeah, by the way, of course, I will always also use lots of sawdust. Or actually, these are more like shavings. I got it from one of my neighbors. He was cutting down some trees, and he was just about to throw all this out, so I liberated it from him. I did talk with him. So I have 5-10 bags of this. It's not sawdust, but it's a combination of leaves and sawdust and small wood scraps, and I think that's going to be very, very good. I think actually I'm going to put in some of it in my bottom. As always, I'm going to use tinfoil saggars. I found that when you do that, it tends to be a little lighter and colors come out better, stronger. If you don't, and I mean, of course, you can also just put it into the fire. But when you do that, it tends to be a little bit darker. There will be more soot attached to the pot. That can be very, very beautiful too. But in this case, because I want as much of the colors from sticking here. That's what tinfoil always do. Because I want to preserve as much of the colors from the colored Terra Sigillata. I do want to keep them all in saggars. Another thing is that I'm always firing layers of pots. In this drum I can do 3-4 layers depending on how big the pots are. But because there's going to be some wood between them, they're going to fall down during the fire. So you want to start out with the pots that are strongest. Maybe that's also something that contributes to not cracking. The strongest ones in the bottom, and then you build it up with the smaller ones and the more fragile ones, porcelain, whatever, in the top. Also, of course, in the bottom, it's not going to be as dramatically heated. So again, if you have very big pots, I fired up to 55 centimeter bases in this drum. When you put it in the bottom, it's going to take more time for it to heat up, and I think that's probably safest. The smaller ones, the stronger ones, with thinner walls, you can have higher up where they're going to heat up faster. So let's start out with this one. This is one of the bigger ones for this fire, and I think I'm going to use some of that. I'm going to use some of this wonderful seaweed. Not all of it, but some of it. I also picked up some of this rope. It's not normal rope. I never saw this before. It's made out of coconut, apparently. So it's also pure organic. Not particularly from Denmark, but still interesting because it is an organic material. There will be carbon in it, and there will be some other materials. So I usually wrap some copper wire, like this, around some of my pots. Probably still gonna do some of that. But I was just thinking that this might leave some interesting traces. So I'm gonna try that. So, I think there's a little bit too much maybe. Some up here. Yeah. You know, the thing with the pots is that I realized in the beginning I was putting too much on it, and normally less is better. So for these ones, I'm gonna keep it simple. If it's too boring when you get it out of the pit, you can always fire it again. It's a little more difficult if there's too much on it. At least that's what I found. So this one probably needs another wrap. Also, when you wrap this tin foil, don't wrap it too evenly. It actually becomes very nice if there's some holes in it, some places where the air can be trapped, and some places where it can escape. That's gonna make some interesting patterns. So I think that's the first cocoon ready to be put into the pit. If you wonder, this tin foil is a little more heavy than the usual one you get for the kitchen, and also of course it's much wider. There's a lot on the roll. I got this in Denmark in a shop called Inco for professional kitchens and wholesalers. And I think if you go to big stores like that, whatever you have close to you, you should be able to get this. And also it's much cheaper actually if you buy a big roll. So for this one, I'm gonna try some of this with the bubbles one, or whatever you want to call it. At least it's interesting. And I'm gonna wrap just a little bit of copper wire around that, because I think the black, green, yellow, not yellow, red, black, green color it can create may look good on this one. So I usually put 2, maybe 3 layers on it. It depends a little bit on the size. These ones are so big that I can't really wrap one piece around it, so I need several layers to cover everything. And this is what I usually do, and it turns out really well. So I press it in at some points, and then I leave some airspace at other points. Naturally, there will be because of these big combustibles, the seaweed that's inside, and that uneven way of packing it creates some nice patterns usually. So let's see how that turns out. This pot, in terms of colors, is the most experimental one, because I'm using 4 different kinds of colored Terra Sigillata. There's a white base, or the neutral base, but it's white in my case. There's a little bit of cobalt on the top, and then there's some I think they're called fan brushed colors with red and yellow. The yellow is hard to see, and it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But because of all these colors, I think I'm going to limit how much combustibles I'm going to put in this. So, experiment on top of experiment. Seaweed that I haven't used before, and multicolored Terra Sigillata. That's going to be interesting. This one is kind of outside my experiment this time. This is a lamp base. So it's in porcelain. Kind of thrown a little bit heavy because it is a lamp base, so I don't want it to tip over. But it is porcelain. So this one have only been burnished. It's not there's no Terra Sigillata on it, and so I'm going to use a little more colors on this one. In fact, I think I may be using this. I don't know. I call it like a metal stocking or something. It's actually from a sponge, one of these sponges you use to clean pans and pots with, and then when you unfold it, it becomes this tube, and it's actually very nice. You can put it over your pot like this. And this will create some wonderful patterns. Usually they just turn black. If you're really lucky, they can be a little more reddish or something. But I also have some in copper. It tends to be a little more interesting in color. But with copper, if you try Pitfire, you never know how that turns out. So with this one, I'm actually gonna go a little bit outside of my pure organic mantra for this, because I'm gonna use a little bit of copper carbonate and salt. And also, I'm going to use some banana peels. Banana peels is, well, maybe that and the seaweed are my favorites. The banana peels create these beautiful orangey, light yellow colors. They're very beautiful. So I'm going to use some of that. I'm going to use a little bit of the copper carbonate here. I think the salt got some water in it. It's okay, still salt. Let's just put a little bit of the seaweed in here too. Then at least I can say it's still sort of organic, right? So now the first layer of pots is almost done. I think maybe I can move a little bit. I don't want them to be too close. I still want to be able to put some stuff in there that can burn. I'm going to put some of this shavings, wood shavings. I'm gonna put, maybe I'm gonna put just one piece of wood in there so it can gain some fire. Take a couple of these old scrap woods. It's also gonna protect these ones a little bit from the next layer, at least until it burns. And also, I always put some, oh, there's some snails in there. I don't want to kill them. Get away. Also, I put some newspaper in here because that's going to help fuel the fire. I also usually use a little bit of these. Usually use it to light up my fireplace in the living room, but just a few of these. It's going to help make sure that the fire reaches down here. But I add a little more hay because that also creates nice fumes, and it also helps prepare like the bedding for the next layer. I think I can have at least 2 layers more. So let's see. This one I'm kind of excited about because it's a pure cobalt, it's a 2% cobalt in Terra Sigillata that I applied to this one, but there's nothing else, no other decoration. So I surely want to do some decorations on this one. But again, for everything in this fire, I want to try and keep it as organic as possible. I will use a little bit of the copper wire because I think that's going to look beautiful on this one. And for this, I'm also going to use a bit of my favorite, the banana peels. I think this one will be easier, and maybe this one I can probably. For this next part, I'm going to do something I haven't done since last summer, and that is using fresh leaves like this. These leaves are very interesting. I have this tree outside, and I know it looks a little bit like weed. It's not. They do have that sort of shape, doesn't it? But you can put this on and it will leave a mark if you're lucky. Now the tricky part about putting it on, I learned that last summer, is to actually make it stick. What I learned the first time I tried to make these beautiful leaves stick to the pot is that they're very difficult to actually stick, and you want them to be very, very close to the pot so they leave a beautiful mark. So what I found out that I can use is just glue. This is a photo mount. It's gonna evaporate. It probably contributes a little bit to the color, but it works. So basically you just spray your leaf, and now it's glued, and then you can place it very specific where you want it. So that's it. I'm still going to use some of the seaweed, maybe a little bit of the wire or the rope, but that's it. I think I can have one more. That was the second layer. Now I will fill it up with some more sawdust, scrapings, whatever you want to call this. It's actually a mix. I think it's going to be very good. Some of it is not completely dry, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. For each layer, I usually add more and more solid wood because I want the fire to be heaviest on the top and then travel slowly down through the layers. So I didn't add so much wood in the beginning. Then I'm going to add a little more wood here. And then in the top, of course, it's going to be tons of wood, or not tons, but a real bonfire on top. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to add just a few of these. Maybe a couple of these ones. Yeah, The only thing we need to finish up is I have a couple of bowls and a vase that can be on the last layer. And now you probably say, bowls? Bowls for Pitfire? But bowls, I mean Pitfire, it's not food safe. And you're right, but then again, you should see the kind of food that I eat. It's not food safe either. But anyway, you are right. Pitfire is not food safe by definition. I have made some beautiful Pitfired bowls, and once I did that, I was like, wow, even if it's not food safe, I'm still gonna make them. So I do make them, but of course I disclaim that they are not made for food. But what I do is I serve like bananas or oranges and things like that in them that have peels, and I don't think that's too dangerous. Anyway, I wouldn't serve a salad or soup or something in them because that's going to go into the materials. So, but anyway, they look very decorative on a table, so I make them anyway. The great thing about pit-firing bowls, unlike when you're glazing them, is that you can put them inside each other because you don't have the glaze, so it's not sticking in any way. So I'm going to start out with this. I think this is the biggest one, so I'm going to start out with that. And again, these ones have not been, I've not used any colored Terra Sigillata on them, so I will need to do a little more coloring on that. I will, however, on this one, particular one, I will be using the, what is it here? The shark eggs. Because I think that will be beautiful in the bottom of this, if it turns out anything close to what I think it may. So I'm going to put them here, spread them out a little bit. And then not so much else on the inside. I just want to see what these eggs are going to do. I'm going to stretch some of this. No, I'm going to use it on a small one. And then I'm going to supplement with some seaweed on the outside. So we keep this sea theme. But then I will cheat and use a little bit of copper carbonate. Just on the outside. And a little bit of salt, because the copper carbonate does need some salts. There is salts, of course, in the weeds, but I'm just going to add a little bit more to be sure that they fume enough. So that was the first one. I'm just going to put the other ones inside that. At least I think I'm going to put the small one inside that. And for this last one, I'm going to do something that I didn't expect to do for this one, but I'm going to use just a little bit of Ferric chloride. And I'm going to do it a little bit different than what I usually do, because I'm just going to pour something in here. And then I'm going to do like that. So, that's it. I think this is going to be interesting. In case you wonder, I look not as nice as I did in the beginning. And yes, Pitfire is a dirty job, but somebody has to do it. Anyway, if you don't like playing with fire, if you don't like getting dirty like I do, then you should not be doing Pitfire. That's just a fact. We have a little bit of banana here that I will add. I think I'll just take the rest of this, put in here without gluing it. It may turn out interesting. I will add some seaweed because the salt and all that stuff is nice. And to go crazy on this one, we will be adding some copper carbonate. And yes, This won't be completely organic, but I think it will be good anyway. That was the last layer. Just gonna put a couple of these to protect it. Put some more sawdust, maybe some hay, a little more of these ignition packages, and then I will start building the fire on top. So a little more of that hay, a lot more of the sawdust. I think actually in the top I'm gonna use some different sawdust. I have some dried that are completely dried. This sawdust is from a sawmill. It's also very cheap, not as cheap as the one I got for free, but this is completely dry. So I'm sure about that, and I want to put that on the top. So, oh. That's good enough. Put this in the middle, and then I will build it with some smaller pieces. I will be adding a little bit of alcohol on top of it. It's just a little bit easier to get it started that way. No gasoline, just alcohol. Let it soak a little bit, and then before I light it, I want to remove all the flammables that are around, so we don't ignite anything by accident. I think it's time to light it up. Even though it actually didn't look so good, it's actually burning, which is a good start, because I just want to get flames, and as soon as these bigger chunks of wood ignite, that's going to create lots of heat, and then we can add some more. I'm probably going to have to cut up some of the more scrap wood that I have here to use, but I'll get back to that. It is a little bit windy today, not crazy, but just a nice breeze, and actually I found out that's the ideal weather for firing. I have been firing all year round in the winter, where it's cold, sometimes even snowy. That works okay, except you have to be extra careful when you take things out. Also, anytime during the year. In the summertime, it's just nice to be outside. But you can basically fire any time of the year. If it's very stormy, of course, all these particles fly around. They can be a little bit unsafe, and maybe you get the fire going too fast. But other than that, I think a day like today is perfect. Now the fire is going pretty well, and I'm just going to feed it with so much sun now, and it's going down, so it's right in my eyes. But that's nice. So I'm just going to feed it with a little more wood in the next hour, maybe 2 hours, and then I will just let it slowly burn out or burn down and turn into glows, and then I will put the lid on to begin with, just a little bit, and then when it gets dark in the night, I will put the lid totally on and leave it for tomorrow. But so far, it looks really good. It's very warm. Many people have asked me what temperature I fire my Pitfired pot with, and to be honest, I don't know for sure, because I do not have a thermocouple in there, so I'm not measuring the internal temperature. I don't think it gives much purpose, because I will try and fire it as warm as possible, any case. But I do know that flames typically will not be warmer than 800 degrees centigrade. And when it goes into glows, if there's enough oxygen coming into it, it can go as high as 1,000 degrees. But that's about the limit. So at a maximum, it's equal to ragu. It's not, I don't know even what that cone is. It's not really interesting, because it's a natural firing process. But I do have this. This is an infrared thermometer. It's actually very interesting. You can, if you look here, you can see. I don't know if you can see it. When you push it, there's a little infrared spot, and then it reaches temperature. In my case, it's 35 degrees. Oh, I'm warm, but then again, I'm next to the fire. You can actually use this and point it into your pots or into your barrel and see the temperature. And we take this. It's say 600-700 degrees. And then the only thing I actually use it for is to see or measure how well the heat travels down in the barrel. Because if we take the top here, and this is on the outside, it's a 450 degrees approximately. So up here it's 450 degrees. It's very hot. If we go down to the middle of the next ring, it actually say 410, so that's good. We go down to the middle of the next section, it's say 120. If we go down to the bottom, it's say only 75, which is very normal. So you have a distribution from 75 to 450 degrees in this barrel right now. That's going to change. It's going to get hotter and hotter down there. And with this infrared device, you can somehow use that. It only goes up to 800 degrees, so I won't be able to measure any higher than that. You can get infrared scanners like this that goes even higher, but they're much more expensive. This is one that I bought in a car shop, because apparently, I know nothing about cars, but apparently car people use this also for certain kind of repair, so they can measure the temperature inside the engine, and they're quite cheap. I think I paid 300 Danish kroner. What is that? 60 bucks, something like that. 50 bucks. So it's reasonable. Some people have asked me if the reason that their pots crack in the Pitfire is that it's getting too hot. Even though I understand the question, I'm pretty sure that's not the reason. And I'll tell you why. It's because the flames won't get any hotter than flames do. And when you're firing wood like I do here, flames can get up to about 800 degrees centigrade. So they won't get much hotter than that. When it glows, when it gets into glows, it eases down. If there's enough oxygen, they can, as I understand it, get up to about 1,000 degrees, but not any more than that. So even if you put all the fire, or even if you put all the wood on it that you can find and make a huge bonfire out of it, it still won't get any hotter. Another question is how long you fire. The way that I fire, the circle that I have is that I fire it up slowly, as we talked about. That takes a few hours. Then I feed it a little more wood, another couple of hours, so maybe 3-4 hours with like full flames until I can feel that the heat is getting down into the barrel. And then I slowly let it ease out and go into this glow stage. And then it will glow all night. And sometimes when I get there in the morning, as I said before, there's still some glowing there. And when I open up, the flame starts again. So the actual burning and glowing can be maybe 12 hours, and then it will cool down after that. That circle, to me at least, have proven to give really good results. Now, on the other hand, if I kept putting wood on it, and theoretically I could have it burning for 3 days, I think that a lot of the colors would burn out. I haven't tried, but theoretically that would happen eventually. So I wouldn't fire too long, but I wouldn't be afraid of firing to a temperature that's too high, because it's not possible the way that we fire here. It is now 7:15 something, early evening. I started the fire, I think it was about 4-5 maybe. So it's been burning for a little more than 2 hours. It's still burning. I'm still gonna fuel it a little more. I like this phase. I like the creative part of packing up the pots with all the combustibles, chemicals, whatever you use. I like stacking up the drum, building the layers and deciding what to put in there. And of course, I like to fire it. I must admit that. I like playing with fire. But I also like this stage. This is more like calm. This is relaxing. I can go around in my garden, enjoy it, visit my chickens, collect some eggs, make myself an omelette. Please don't cook on this, especially not if you're using chemicals. I don't think that's exactly healthy. But I like this stage. It's comforting, it's relaxing, and sometimes I'm here with friends. Today I'm alone. I may get some visitors later, but now it's just relaxing, drinking some coffee, maybe a cold Coca-Cola, and just taking the time until the night falls, and I will cover it up. Coffee time! I really enjoy this. Now the flames have finally settled. It's, what is it now? It's almost 9 o'clock. So what is that? 4 hours, I think it has been burning. So the flames are much smaller now. I'm probably not going to put any more wood on it because it's glowing. It's super, super hot. Let me actually check if we... Yeah, it's too hot for this to measure. It only goes to 800 degrees and it just peaks out of that. So, because this is not flames anymore. This is glowing and it gets oxygens from below and of course from the top. And that actually means it goes beyond the 800 degrees that I understand flames can be. So now it can potentially get up to about 1,000 degrees. So this is where all the fun stuff starts. And I can also see the holes that I have drilled, not the bottom ones, because the bottom ones that I put below the new bonfire rest, that they're not going to glow. But the ones just above that, that are pointing into the lower level of pots, I should start seeing some glowing there, because that's an indication that the fire have gone all the way down through the barrel, and that should happen at some point. I can see it on this side. I think maybe, yeah, on this side I can see it. I think also I can see it over here on this side, but on this side there's nothing. And this is not uncommon. It has to do with the way that you pack it. I try to pack it evenly, but you can't control fire. I mean, the way that it moves down, maybe something caught fire faster in this part and it brought the fire down, and not so fast on the other side. But as long as you have materials all around your barrel all the way down, then eventually it will get there. So don't worry too much about that. But it is good to check if you get that little light in there. Now it's settled even more. I just had my dinner, nice pizza, and it's glowing and it's super warm now. I tried to measure it, but again, the laser I have only goes up to 800 degrees, and so it was way over that. So my guess is it's about 900 degrees, I think. And when I look down here below, all the holes are now glowing. I don't think I will put more fire on it, but I will let it burn, or any more wood, but I think I will let it burn out. Or just so when it's only glowing, I will put the lid on to begin with, just a little bit, and then eventually before I go to bed, I will put it on totally. And that will, it's 10 o'clock now, so probably in a couple of hours, that will create sort of a reduction atmosphere in there. Not completely, because we still have the holes in the bottom there are going to get some oxygen in, but it will create a different atmosphere, and that's going to help develop the colors. So looking forward to that, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. As usual, I woke up way too early. I always do that when I have a Pitfire going on, because I'm so curious to see how it turned out. So I got up at 6 something and just had my first cup of coffee, and I'm now gonna take the first view and see what it looks like inside and how warm it is. So just to be sure that I'm not burning myself, I'm gonna put on my gloves. And just a quick word on these gloves, because you can buy specialized pottery gloves in your pottery stores, but they're way too expensive. These ones are welding gloves, so they're quite good. They will protect you, and they are only, I think I paid 69 kroner in Denmark, which is about $10 something, and they work great. And for $10 you can use them the way you want, and when they're worn out, buy some new. So I'm just gonna take the first peek view. Wow, it's looks good. The reason I'm laughing is that it's fallen on each other in quite a chaotic way compared to what it usually looks like. It's actually not so warm now. Now I want to take it out and I want to take a look at it. And this is exactly what you shouldn't do. Because right now it looks great. All the pots appear to be perfect. There's no cracking, and that's the first important thing. But if I take them out now, too early, when they're still a bit warm, that's when you increase the likelihood of cracking, in my experience. So please be patient. You've done all this work, you've thrown nice pieces, you wrapped them up nicely, you fired all night. Wait a few more hours. So I will do that, go and drink my coffee and do a little bit of office work. And then I will get back to you in a couple of hours and we will unload the kiln. I'm now on my third cup of coffee and I'm beginning to feel a little more human. I took the lid off, left it off. It was almost cold, still could feel a little bit of heat, so just to be safe, I'll let it sit there for a few hours. So now I think it's time to take out the pots and see what it is like. This one came out interesting. Not as much color as I was expecting, but still some nice patterns. I did brush a little bit of the cobalt colored Terra Sigillata. It's very subtle, but still it's a beautiful piece. And of course no crackings, so that's important. When you take out the pots, be very careful, because there can still be some pieces of wood left, maybe even if you use scrap wood as I did, where there's some nails in it and you know, all kinds of leftovers. It can fall down on the other pots, and it would be terrible now that they made it through this whole process to break them when you take them out. I always have a bucket next to me to throw away all the tin foil and any ashes and stuff, to get rid of that. Again, this is on the gray side. There's some interesting orange colors here, and some nice, very nice patterns from the seaweed. Again, it is on the grayish side, but it looks beautiful. This is a bit more interesting. This is one of the bowls, and it came out with some interesting red colors here and some green. I don't know if you can see it. But there's some interesting green colors here, which is most likely from the cobalt carbonate. But there's some red and some yellowish, and I'm not sure exactly where that came. Inside it's again very grayish. So I guess that the seaweed is not actually releasing so many colors as I did expect. But still, it's beautiful, no cracking. You see this one have a lot of these ashes that have burned into the side of it. I try to avoid washing it in water because because it's not sealed, so the water will go into the pot, and if it does, then you have to of course dry it before you can apply any wax or any kind of sealing. So if you do wash them, if you need to wash them, you have to let them sit for a few days, maybe a week or so they're completely dry before you apply the final layer. I try just to brush it off. If I can't brush it off, I will use a little bit of steel wool, just lightly, because it's very, very fine particles. I can typically get it off that way, because of course you want a smooth surface. But all in all, I think it comes out great. So this one, I used the cobalt colored Terra Sigillata, and I wrapped this copper wire around it. And the copper wire did exactly what it usually does. It makes these beautiful lines, and I really love that. And here there's some interesting things going on. We have some reds here, and I didn't use anything but the copper and the seaweed, so it must be a combination of that. And there's some distinct blue coming up here, which is, funny enough, very strong here and not so strong on the rest of it. But I think when this gets burnished, it will be really beautiful. So I'm happy. And this is something you have to remember, that you can always refire. Just like when you do normal glazes, if you don't like the way it turns out, you can refire it. This one is beautiful. It's the colorings from the colored Terra Sigillata came out well, but there's not much of an influence on the actual pit firing. So this one, maybe I will refire that as well. So this one, I think this is the one where I poured the ferric chloride around on the inside, and that, of course, it always does turn out really well. Funny enough, it's also reflected a lot on the outside, so there's actually a lot of that ferric chloride coloring outside, which is interesting enough, and some nice coloring from the banana peel, and the seaweed made some nice colors too, so that's good. I don't know if it was this one or this one where I put the shark eggs inside, but apparently it didn't do anything. So now at least I know that. This one I like. It's again a little more subtle, but I have some nice reddish colors here. Now it actually starts to rain a little bit, which is funny because there's a blue sky and I have rain. It's probably just very shortly, I would assume. So it's not too much. So again, have some really nice orangey colors here, and even though it is on the dark side with the seaweed, it does create some really, really nice patterns. And I think when I brush this, it's going to be nice. So on this one, I also used copper wire, and again, the copper wire is very predictable, except for the color. Usually it just turns black, as it did in this case. And actually it's a funny thing because it at this hollow, when it goes over the other back area, and this actually looks really, really nice, the way that it almost looks like the universe, something, the star pictures. And some nice patterns over here. There is a lot of white, but it does create a very nice, and my logo stamp turned out really nice here. So this is not bad. This one also, I mean, it's very evident to me that this seaweed, maybe it's just this seaweed, that is turning out very gray, blackish, and not so much color. There is some funny colors that turn up now and then, some orange, bluish, red type of colors, but not so much. This is the one where I used the red and the yellow Terra Sigillata, and that also stayed pretty well, even through some of the dark one here. And this is interesting. This is very beautiful, where you can see the shine of the different colors of Terra Sigillata through the darker areas from the seaweed fumes. So that's actually interesting. And this is the last one, and this is always interesting because this is the lamp base that I made. And remember, I put this this mesh metal stocking, or whatever you want to call it, and that always turns out interesting. So let's see how that turned out. And after you fired, this mesh is completely broken down, so it's very easy to remove. Funny enough, the mesh actually didn't leave the normal prints that I get from it, which is interesting. Maybe it's because I usually use it in a combination with either copper carbonate or ferric chloride, and maybe that increased the effect of it. It's interesting, something I need to take a note on. Again, it's on the light side, but it is beautiful in its own way, and as a lamp base, I think it actually will work really well. 10 pots and 10 vases and 3 bowls in one fire. I think that's a pretty good outcome, and some of them I think is beautiful. Some of them I think I may want to refire, add some more colors, but that's something you can always do. I like playing with fire anyway, so another fire will always be good. So I hope you enjoyed it. I did, and as usual, there was no cracking at all. I took my time, I was patient, and that's what you need to do. So if you like this and you want to see more videos, I will have more videos about Pitfire, because I will keep experimenting, and maybe you will come along and see when I refire some of these. If you do like it, please subscribe, like, share, and if you have any questions, you're welcome to add them below. I will try and answer the best I can. Hope to see you soon again.